Hey everyone, before I get started with the video, I just want to let you know I'm going to put a time code cheat sheet on the top left hand corner of the screen because I can be long-winded sometimes. I like to take my time when I explain things, so for those of you who just want to skip to certain parts of this video, I'm going to put a little time code cheat sheet so you can skip ahead and ignore all the blabbering. Alright, let's get to the video. Hey everyone, so here's a special foiled episode for you. I haven't done anything like this before. It's not something I can do very often, but I've had some patrons ask me about this. I've had some of you, subscribers, non-subscribers ask me about this on videos in the past, and it's about foils and curling. And I'm going to share with you today what I do to deal with curled foils. Either how to fix them or how to prevent them in the first place. So if you know anything about me, or if you know anything about Delver Brews and this channel, I'm a big foiled person. I have a foiled series episode every Wednesday, kind of like this one. I share a lot of foiled cards with you. I give my opinions, and I have a lot of cool conversations with other foiled freaks or people that are not foiled freaks but just want to know more about foils and how to take care of them. So I've had a lot of conversations over time, and I have a lot of people ask me the same questions. These are two Commander Legend foils. I opened these on camera recently, and this was in December, and they've curled. They've curled because I did not. These are for giveaways, so I didn't sleeve them up right away. I should have. And they foiled because they weren't stored in a controlled environment like my actual foil collection. Check out a video I posted in late December called Delver's Foil Binder, where I show you all my foil collection. And it's a special binder. There's a lot of value in there. It's stored in special conditions, which I'll get into in this video. But some of the other cards are not stored in special conditions. So this is what happens. Haven't played with them. Haven't done anything with them, and they've curled to the point where I'm pretty sure I can make it. I can make some of these stand. Maybe not these two, but I can make some of them from the same batch stand up vertically. So why do they foil? Why do these foils curl? And how can you prevent it? And how can you fix it when it's already curled? So there's a lot of stuff out there which explains it to you. What I want to do in this video, and actually it's going to be, I'm going to put it all together in one video, but it's going to take 2 weeks essentially for me to put this all together. I'm going to tell you what I do, and then I'm actually going to do it, and then I'm going to show you the result at the end of the 2 weeks. So what I'm going to do is one card, this one in particular, I'm going to, do what I normally do to take care of my cards, to take care of my foils or to fix them. And this one, I'm just going to do the bare minimum. I'm going to put it under a book, and that's it. And at the end of the 2 weeks, we're going to see what happens. So if I'm going to do it for a week. After a week, I'm going to take them out of the book. I'm going to take them from under the book. And then I'm going to keep them in their same state. So this one's going to stay sleeved. This one's going to stay unsleeved, for example. And I'm going to let them sit for a week as well in the same environment. Just nothing on them, nothing compressing them. I'm just going to wait and see what happens. And I'm going to record, in each interval to show you, hey, this is what looks like after a week. This is what it looks like after 2 weeks. So just to kind of, have some science. It's not foolproof. I'm sure you could think of a million holes in that, and I could tell you the holes in that. But this is what I would consider what a standard person would do, that doesn't have access to special conditions or special safe where they can control their environment. So why do foils curl? And why do some foils curl more than others? At the end of the day, 99.999% of the time, they're curling because of humidity. In other words, moisture. Too much moisture in the air. We need moisture in the air. For human living conditions, 30% humidity is more or less the minimum. Anything under that, you're going to start to have issues. You get more bloody noses. It's not good long term to live in dry conditions. So for most living conditions, if you have a heating system or a cooling system, it's trying to also control your humidity, your moisture, to try and keep it at least 30. My HVAC system in my house tries to keep it at like 40, 50% throughout the year. I live in Canada. We go through winters. We get pretty cold winters, which means the heating is on longer. It means it dries out the air a lot more. But even then, it tries to maintain 30+% humidity, which means there's always going to be moisture in the air. And as long as there's moisture in the air, and as long as the cards stay exposed to the air, they have the potential for curling. And obviously, this has become a bigger issue more recently, in the more recent years, 5 years, but foils have curled forever. I own some old foils and they curl, but I would have to say the frequency of curling has been way more prevalent in the, did I say prevalent? That's a word, right? Prevalent. I said prevalent, didn't I? It's been way more prevalent in the more recent years. That's for sure. That's for sure. Because, 10 years ago I didn't know that much about foils, and my foils didn't curl that much, and I didn't take care of them that much. Now they stay out like this for 2-3 weeks, and boom, they've curled. So they're curling because of moisture. Now, it is possible for it to get so dry that they also warp in some way, but that's a lot more rare. For a lot of the same reasons I just told you. For most human living conditions, your system's not going to let the house go to 0% humidity. And if it does, you have more serious issues than your foils warping, trust me. You can't really live properly in 0%. You could. Some people do, but it's not good for your health. So if you're at 0% or sub 30, sub 20% humidity in your house, fix that first before you worry about your foils. But most of the time it's humidity. And if you're in Florida, for example, in the States, oh boy, I know from what I've heard, I haven't been to Florida, but from what I've heard, you can step out, it's humid as hell. That's not good for your foils. They're going to be absorbing that moisture, and they're going to start curling, exactly as you see here. This is just what's going to happen. Different type of foiling processes will react differently to the environment. Different type of curling will occur. We all see how from the vault foils curl. They don't do from the vault anymore, but we all saw that. So they all curled in a particular way. But at the end of the day, they curl. Now, what do you do? What do you do to prevent it from happening in the first place? So, first things first, try and reduce the amount of air your cards are exposed to. Now, this is good for all your cards, whether they're foil or not, just in general. If you want them to last, 1,000 years, reduce the amount of air that they're exposed to. And how do you do that? Sleeve them. Sleeve them and keep them sleeved, and ideally double sleeve them. If you have foil cards, definitely double sleeve. You should always double sleeve, just my opinion. I've always double sleeved, just protects the card more, but definitely double sleeve for your foils. And what does double sleeving mean? It means you're going to have a perfect fit sleeve that's going to go over the card first, and then you're going to put it over a regular sleeve. And I like to have them reversed, so I should probably get a sleeve now to kind of show you what I mean. Give me a second here. So I'm going to take this sleeve here. So this is a perfect fit hard, and that's something else I'll tell you about in a second. So I'm going to sleeve my card like this first. So this is a perfect fit. As you can see, there's very little room on the sides. There's not a lot of air pockets. And then what I would do is I would take my normal sleeve, that's not a perfect fit, and I would put it in this way so that the opening is on top. So this way you're reducing the amount of air even more that's going to enter, because air, if you sleeve it the same way for the inner and the outer, there's still going to be air moving in this way. But if you put it in this way, you flatten it, get some of that air out, it's going to make a difference. Is it perfect? No. Are you making it airtight? Of course you're not making it airtight, but you are reducing, at the end of the day, how much air gets into contact with your card, how much air moves around your card, and that's going to protect it a bit from moisture. But if you're in 90% humidity, there's only so much you can do, right? So the next thing you need to do is you need to control the humidity of where you store your cards. Now, if you're going to take your cards out and play with your friends for a night, or you're going to go to a GP, not that they exist anymore, or you're going to go to play at your local gaming store when it's actually open, and this whole pandemic thing is over, that's fine. They're not going to be exposed for too long. They're not going to hyper curl. Even if you're in 80% humidity, especially if you're going to be indoors, it's going to be controlled. When they're stored away, whether they're in your deck box or you're sitting in somewhere in a bin, try and control the humidity that you have in that room or in your house in general or your apartment, whatever it may be. Get a dehumidifier. If you're always storing them in the same room, get a dehumidifier and put it in that room. Run it all the time. Make sure you set it to the lowest setting. So try and go as low as you can to make sure you suck up as much water from the air as you can to keep that room dry. Now, obviously, like I said, you don't want it to go too dry, so don't make it go below 30% humidity, and that's a setting on all modern dehumidifiers. But, try and keep it as close to 30 as you can, and that's definitely going to help you in regards to controlling curling on your non-curled foils. That's just how it's going to work. That's the only way, at least that I've found in all these years, to keep these from curling. You can also get those silica packets. They're small little silica packets that you've seen in other things and that you can keep in your deck box and to also control the moisture in your deck box. But those will get saturated pretty quickly with moisture because you're moving them around, you're going to different places. And I mean, it's fine. You could, a lot of them that you could buy from Amazon, you could just reactivate them by putting them in a microwave or something, or in the oven, or they're just disposable one way or another. It's just something you're going to have to do. It's just part of the upkeep if you're serious about curling of your foils. Of course, you could just not play with foils, and that solves the problem. But for example, I don't play with all my foils, but I collect them, and I don't want them to foil up in my binder. So what do I do specifically? I just go the extra step. So I have a large collection. It's worth a lot. I have a fireproof safe that's also waterproof. And what that means is that there's not a lot of air moving in and out of that safe. When it's closed, the air that was there is essentially trapped in there. Very little leakage occurs. And what I do is I basically purchase like these little dehumidifiers. They're decanters. They're bead-based, kind of like the silica packets. They're like silica packets, but they're in a big can. So there's like thousands of them. And they start absorbing the moisture in the air in that safe. And since there's not a lot of air moving in and out, they could last a couple of months in there, just sucking out the air and keeping a constant humidity of around 20 to 25%, which is relatively dry, but it's in a safe, so who cares? So it's really, really dry. And that helps a lot with curling. By that I mean there's no curling. I shared that with you guys. I shared the video with you guys in December. No curling. So listen, this video has already gone off long. I'm talking a lot. Keep your stuff dry, double sleeve, and that's how you keep things from curling. What about when they're already curled? Well, it's essentially the same thing. The only extra step that I do, apart from, double sleeving and trying to keep it in a dry environment, is that I put something heavy over them, like a heavy book, like a dictionary or something. You don't have to go crazy. You don't have to put like a 100-pound box or something over them. Just put a book over it so it can flatten it and keep it there for like a week. Keeping it longer isn't necessarily going to make a difference. There's only so much you're going to do. And doing that, and that's what I'm going to do here. I'm going to cut soon. I'm going to show you what happened a week from now and 2 weeks from now. And you should see a flatter card, if not back to normal. Now, but remember, you're not solving the issue this way. The only way you're going to solve the issue is if you keep it double sleeved and you keep it in a dry environment as much as you can. That's just, and control the moisture as much as possible, because moisture is your enemy. You do not want moisture near your foils. It's basically the end of the story. And don't worry about the opposite. Very, very, very hard to do damage through too much drying. It's very difficult to get it so dry that it also warps the cards. You would have to do something, very deliberate to make it that dry. And again, I'm not advocating for any of that. So don't worry. If you just keep stuff dry with a dehumidifier, you're good. So I'm going to stop it here because I've already been blabbing on for 13 minutes. I'm going to show you what happened a week from now. So I'm going to have to cut. I'm not used to this. I usually like to do one-shots. And I'll show you when it happened 2 weeks from now, and I'll give you my final thoughts and my final opinions on foils, in particular with the curling, and where we should go from here, what I recommend to wizards. Of course, they're not going to care. They don't even know I exist. But yeah, let's see what happened a week from now. Hey everyone, alright, so it's been a week, and you're going to notice something. There's a third card here. So after I shot the initial video, I figured let me add a card from another set that was equally curled, and just kind of make it an extra control, because foiling does change from one set to another, and definitely Commander Legends foils, the process is definitely different from the one from Zendikar Rising. So I decided to add one here. This Scourge of the Skyclaves was equally curled, like very, very curled. I think maybe even worse than the other two. And I want to show you, I used the same process. So basically, this one was sleeved, this one was double sleeved, this one was not sleeved at all. They were all put under the same book, the same pile of books, the same amount of pressure, the same amount of time, the same environment. They've also been in the same environment even before this whole testing started. So they've been in the same room, they've been, exposed to the same stuff. Okay, so everything is the same, and that's the whole point, because we want to see what the results are. So let's take a look at our original two, because these are the ones we're actually following. So if you remember the curling, now you could see the one that wasn't put it into any sleeves. It still has a curl. It's definitely improved, not by much. I'm actually surprised at how poorly the Commander Legends foils are reacting to my process, because this is a process I've used often. And as you can see here, it's flattened, but not by much, at least not this one. I haven't actually looked at this, so let's see if there was any big difference with the curling on. So this is not that bad. It still has a curl to it though. So definitely not reacting as well as I thought it would, at least for the Commander Legends foils. Now I've already touched this one, and I know that the curl has improved significantly on the Zendikar Rising ones. So let's take a look. Zendikar Rising, and this one is essentially flat now, which is interesting. I figured they probably use the same printers for these two sets, so I wonder what's different, if anything, or why. I mean, it's very possible that this came from a different printer than these two. So the foil reacted much better, because I don't want to bend it now, but this was foiled. Like, I don't think I could make it stand before, but it was pretty close to, you know, making it stand by itself. And now it's essentially flat. So the process, I mean, I'm actually happy that I put this here, because it's kind of acting like the control. Because if it was just these two, you would see, well, the curling has improved, but not by much. I mean, you're definitely not gonna, yeah, it's not. I mean, it's definitely flattened from what we saw before, but not as much as I thought. Okay. Now keep in mind, the humidity of the room has not been controlled. I mean, I didn't put these in a controlled environment, so the humidity has been around between 35 and 50%. For the week that they were under that book. And even though the book and the sleeving did reduce the exposure, I mean, if we look at these two, you can still tell that this is much more curled than this one. I mean, yeah, definitely you can see that this one's a lot more curled, and this was the one that was not put in any sleeving at all. So there was a difference in double sleeving this foil, which is nice to see. Again, this is not scientific. There could have been some other factor that I can't account for that caused that, but, you know, for all intents and purposes, we're going to go in a setting where almost 99% of the population is going to be doing this when they're trying to fix their foils. But again, I'm happy I put the control here from another set, because this flattened much better than these two. If the foiling process is the same, which I'm pretty sure it isn't, because just looking at these foils, they look different between the Commander Legends and the Zendikar Rising. Assuming the foiling is the same, it's possible that maybe the printers are different. And I don't know. We don't know enough. I don't think enough of that information is released from Wizards to let us know. But all I know is that Zendikar Rising seems to have, responded better to the treatment. Double sleeved responded better than no sleeve at all. They were all in the same environment. Now, what I'm going to do next is I'm going to re-sleeve Scourge of the Skyclaves. I'm going to re-sleeve Laboratory Drudge. And now I'm going to keep them in, nothing compressing them. So they're going to be as exposed as you're about to see them. And I'm going to wait another week. So another 7 days. I'm going to keep them away from the heating register, where a lot of humid air initially caused a lot of the curling. I'm going to keep them in the same room, but just somewhere else. Just kind of make this a bit fair. And then we're going to see in 7 days if these recurl, or if they do, if they all recurl, how much they recurl. So I'm going to be interested to see if this essentially flat Skyclave recurls in a single sleeve. This somewhat curled now Laboratory Drudge, let's see if it recurls on the double sleeve, and no sleeve at all. Keeper of the Accord flattened a bit, but not as much as I hoped. Let's see how badly it curls back without any protection at all. So I'm going to pause here, wait another 7 days, and let's see what the final result is. Alright, so we are 2 weeks in, and let's see the final results. So let's start off with the card that was not sleeved at all. As you can see, it started to curl back. This is not a surprise. The room was still between 40 and 50% humidity, And this is a Commander Legends card, and it's already started to curl. I've noticed that the Commander Legends cards, not even including this one here, they really like to curl way more even than the Battle for Zendikar, the Zendikar Rising ones. So let's take a look at Scourge here. Scourge stayed in its sleeve, and actually it did pretty good. Still a bit of a curl, but not bad. Not bad at all. You put this, if I double sleeve it, that's pretty straight. So I'm kind of interesting to see that. I'm sure the sleeve helped a bit, but again, I really think that Zendikar Rising foils are a bit more obedient. And Laboratory Drudge, which was double sleeved. Let's see. Bit of a curl, but not bad. Not bad. Again, you could probably play with this card and it's not going to be a big issue, but the main difference here, if I can show it, maybe I could show it like this, is, yeah, this one definitely curled a lot more and it curled back. So the double sleeving definitely helps. It's not the silver bullet, that's for sure, but the double sleeving definitely helps. So what's the conclusion here? What can we conclude with dealing with foils, at least modern day foils? First things first, at the end of the day, the main factor is really going to be the humidity of where your foils are, which is really the worst case scenario because it's the condition that you can control the least. A house, if you have a well-functioning heating and cooling system, for example, it's going to try and keep the humidity levels, within the 40 to 50% range. And it looks like, 40-50% is more than enough to make these foils curl. And that's really a problem because that means you could just be in a normal environment and they're going to start curling, and that's kind of annoying. And this wasn't the case even 5-6 years ago. I've been a foil freak for a long time, and my Battle for Zendikar foils didn't curl like that. My Innistrad foils, they didn't curl like that. I didn't have to worry about it too much, especially in the environment that I'm usually in. So it's really a sign that things have definitely changed with the printers that WotC is using, and I'm not sure what it is specifically, if they're using maybe eco-friendly cardboard or eco-friendly foiling material, whatever it may be, but clearly humidity plays the biggest role. Now, sleeving and double sleeving seems to help out a bit, which is good. But clearly, especially with the newer foils and now I'm having to adapt to, it's not enough. I have to go to pretty extreme lengths to keep them from curling, which is again very frustrating. It's very frustrating for me as a foil collector, and I think it just kind of devalues foils. We're already in an era where WotC is printing a ton of foils. They've kind of lost their specialness, their special factor. Which isn't going to stop me from collecting foils. I always like foils because I like their look. It doesn't really matter if they're oversaturated in the market. But, the curling aspect is really a problem. Luckily for me, I store most of my foils, 99% of the time that I have them. Especially recently with, the past year, the whole, thing going around that everyone's trying to stay away from. Obviously there's not a lot of paper magic going on, so my foils are staying in a relatively safe location. But when I'm playing actively and I have my foil decks, I just have to be extra concerned about new foils, and that's a problem. So again, to conclude here, you really need to control the humidity that you leave your foils in if you want to control the curling. Double sleeving definitely helps. So, the minute you open up a foil, double sleeve it, that's for sure, but try and keep it in a relatively dry environment. And if you can't, well, I don't know what to tell you. The best option there, if you want to start playing with the foils that you've had and they've started to curl a bit, is double sleeve them, like I have. put them under something heavy for a week or two and hope for the best. But realistically speaking, at least with this test that I've done, using relatively recent foils, at the end of the day, environment is going to really be the biggest factor. Moisture is your enemy when it comes to foils, so try and keep them away from that. I'm hoping that maybe in 2021, 2022, WotC will change direction a bit, and they'll use maybe a better process or go back to the old way of doing things where foils didn't curl so easily and so quickly. When I opened the Commander's Legends box on this channel, the collector's box and the draft box, I literally kept a stack of, because I put all the foils together, obviously. I kept a stack on the table overnight. I came back the next morning, they were all curled. They were all curled, essentially like this, maybe a bit worse. I just had a full stack of foils, so you can imagine a full stack of foils, all curled. It was the most absurd thing ever. I've never experienced that before. And on top of that, you have the fogging effect that you're getting on certain foils from certain printers, which is just adding insult to injury. So really, really frustrating, especially for foil collectors. So I hope this video was interesting to you, or the stitching of videos was interesting to you, to kind of show you what I do to try and maintain my foils. But even here, as you can see, I'm even getting challenged in my traditional ways of protecting my foils because they just curl so quickly now. So I have to, make sure I reduce their exposure as much as possible. And I really hope this video was of some interest to you. It's helped you out, maybe make you understand a bit more why foils curl in the first place and what you kind of do to protect yourself from curling. And maybe this video has convinced you to not get foils at all and just stick to non-foil versions. And you know what? I think for a lot of you out there, that probably is your best bet, especially if you live in a humid environment or a humid climate. Yeah, stay away from foils, unfortunately, because you're going to definitely have curling issues, at least if you're sticking with new foils. If you have old foils, it won't be as bad, but even they have propensity to curl over time. They just have a bigger resistance to it. So let me know what you think. Let me know if you want me to do any other tests. I have no problem using foils as guinea pigs that I open up on this channel from sealed product. Let me know if you think I missed something in this test. I tried to use relatively new foils to make this a bit more relevant for the modern era. Yeah, but let me know if you want me to do something else. I'm open to trying out new things and seeing if other things can maybe protect my foils better. Maybe a tip or trick that I didn't discuss in this video that might help me out here. But yeah, I would love to have that conversation with you in the comments section. If you enjoyed it, please give it a thumbs up. If you enjoy my content in general, please subscribe, hit the notification bell, follow me on Twitter, Facebook, whatever you prefer. And all of that kind of helps me and the algorithms that we must always fight against to favor us as much as all the other big channels. Thanks, and have a good one.